I'm Dr. Chaudhry. Welcome to FSMB Spotlight. Our guest today is a dear friend and colleague, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, physician to the President of the United States. Dr. O'Connor first served as a White House physician back in 2006 during the Bush administration, and then in 2009 became the designated physician for then Vice President Biden. He's known Joe Biden and his family for well more than a decade. Dr. O'Connor is a graduate of St. Bonaventure University in Allegheny, New York, and the New York Institute of Technology's College of Osteopathic Medicine. He completed a residency in family medicine at Mountainside Hospital in New Jersey, where he was also chief resident. He then served 22 years in the Army, including the 82nd Airborne Division and Special Operations Command, retiring as a full-bird colonel in 2017. He remains on faculty here in D.C. at George Washington University, where he is the founding director of executive medicine. Kevin, thank you so much for making time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
No, thank you, Hank. It's an honor to be here. I knew supporting FSMB was the righteous thing to do. It's a great organization, and I knew talking to you, I'd be talking to a friend.
You are. Thank you so much. Being the personal physician to the president, I imagine, must be an enormous responsibility. You're taking care of the leader of the free world, after all, and his family. Do you sleep at night?
No, I do not. No, of course, I actually sleep quite well. And the reason I sleep well is I'm not doing this by myself. I've got a great team, a pretty robust team. I've been referred to as the White House physician. We actually have 8 or 9 White House physicians. I'm what they call P2P, the physician to the president. So I do this all with the 24/7 support of the White House medical unit, and between all these docs, a bunch of nurses, PAs, logisticians, administrators, corpsmen, medics, we are well supported for the mission, and so I sleep quite well because slow down so I can lead you better.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. In the military, we have this term, sense of urgency. I imagine you always have a sense of urgency in your job. How do you balance, as a physician, I mean, you have a family, you have children, how do you balance your work and your personal life?
I'll take the first part of that, the sense of urgency first. Whenever I got new folks coming in, I always sit down, I try to be welcoming and all that and put people at ease. And I ask them, you ever been driving in at work and you got a great song on the radio, the music's playing loud, you got the wind in your face, and you're thinking, this is going to be a great day. Please turn around and go home because I don't want you near me. We're not in the great day business. And so I don't like the word just. Don't put the word just in front of anything. It's not just a walk through the kitchen. It's not just a motorcade. It's not just anything. Everything's important. And so that attention to detail can make you wrapped a little tight. But as far as wellness, the one thing I've done that's been pretty good recently is I joined a cult. I'm a Pelotonian. I do the Peloton. It's not endorsement, but I don't know anything about their corporate structure or their production. But I like the product, and it's something that between the music and the coaches and I know the cheap psychology that's being played on me, but it gets an overweight guy in his 50s to look forward to working out.
I think during the pandemic, all of us have done something different to try to be more active. Since we're mentioning products, I have an Apple Watch. Not that I have any stock in it, but having these kinds of systems and products helps us stay fit. I think that's important.
For sure.
During this pandemic, the vast majority of physicians and other healthcare professionals, as you know, have truly been doing everything they can to take care of people who are sick with the virus. Hospitalizations lately have gone down, although they've been largely due to the Omicron variant. And at least in some cities, it is starting to plateau and come down. The president is making hundreds of millions of N95 masks and rapid testing kits available to everyone in America. Do you see light at the end of the tunnel? Are we getting there?
I certainly hope we are. I think we are. I feel pretty confident that we're going to have a good baseball season. I think that what Omicron has done, being so much more infective, is the people who are fully protected. They've got their 3 shots or 2 if they had the J&J first. If they get a breakthrough infection on top of that, they're going to have pretty good, robust super immunity for about 90 days or so. And the people even that are not vaccinated, those that don't sadly die, they're too going to have some decent immunity for the next 90 days or so. And putting those together, and the most important thing is now we're covering the kids, because I think the kids were the last of the involuntary petri dishes that were breeding out our variants. And so I think that we may actually get to that elusive herd immunity because this is so giving us so many breakthrough infections. And so I'm looking forward to a good spring.
You mentioned being able to go to a ball game again. What do you see as the new normal? Is life going to be very different than it was before the pandemic?
Well, I think a little bit we're going to have a bit of the roaring 20s when people finally start to feel safe. But a lot of things I think are here to stay. Certainly things like internet meetings, Zoom. I think people see the utility of that kind of thing, and I think a lot of brick and mortar establishments are realizing, hey, why am I paying a mortgage? When I see deliveries, Peapod, Amazon, all these things are really meeting a consumer need, and they're doing it in a way that's convenient. So those type things will be silver linings of progress, unless you're that guy that works in that store.
Yeah, no, I agree. I remember from my own time in the Air Force, and I was also a flight surgeon, as you were. I know we've used telemedicine in the military world a lot, especially between doctors in the field and specialists in CONUS, continental United States. With more doctors and patients becoming comfortable with telemedicine, certainly during this pandemic, the FSMB, one of the things we're doing is putting together some guidance for our state boards, because a lot of doctors like it, a lot of patients like it as well, and they want to be able to do more of it. And the state medical boards want to thoughtfully be supportive of expanding access to care and access to these types of technologies. Now, of course, you can't do everything with telemedicine, but do you see a role for telemedicine in our nation's future?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the proof of concept is now done. You can't do everything. I don't prefer it, but I certainly see a need, and I really appreciate that FSMB is trying to put some kind of guidance out there, because I think the patients want to do the right thing, the docs want to do the right thing, the states want to do the right thing, but there is this confusion, especially in executive medicine. If I'm practicing in Washington, D.C., and I'm talking to a patient who's in Denver, who also has offices in Chicago, and then let's make it really crazy, London and Cairo. When I'm talking to that person, am I practicing medicine in Washington, D.C., or am I practicing medicine in Denver? And I'm sure there is a right answer out there, but I think an organization like yours, just to put out feelers as far as, hey, what do we think is right and just and compensable and all that stuff.
Well, since you raised that point, I will mention the FSMB and many of the state boards, actually all the state boards, strongly feel that the practice of medicine in America is where the patient is located. That said, there's been a number of efforts, including something called the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact, where if you meet 9 criteria, participating states are happy to give you a license instantly, and we've had 34 states become a part of that. So that's part of
great.
Expanding that access. I know you speak to medical students a lot, especially in your role at GW. When you and I were in medical school at NYIT, I think I was only a year ahead of you, we had some great faculty who were wonderful role models. Sadly, some of them are no longer with us. I'm referring to people like Bob Mancini, Stan Shiwitz, our dean, Sid Simon, Phil Marcus, I could name others. Who inspired you when you were in school to choose family medicine as a specialty? And was there somebody who inspired you to go into military medicine? Because I know you did ROTC before that.
Right. We had a lot of great mentors back then, and I don't think I give credit to any one person to inspire me to go into family medicine. So it's kind of the answer would be nobody and everybody, because with me, when I got into my rotations, I kind of liked everything, but I didn't like anything so much that I was willing to give up the rest. And so family medicine just seemed to be that niche where I could could kind of do a little bit of everything, and I had the type ego that I was comfortable not being the final word. I'm happy to ask for help. And so it seemed to fit the bill. And then as far as, you're naming old alumni there, Dennis Dowling's another guy that I've reconnected with him a little bit. We worked together on the NBOME, some of their questions.
Sure.
But as far as the military, Phil Volpe certainly comes to mind. General Volpe retires a 2-star. He's a few years ahead of us, but he's always been a mentor. And
to me as well. I mean, he's been a rock star for us at our school.
Yeah, very much so. And then even people that were not at my school, Frank Butler is a Navy ophthalmologist, but he and I share that combat trauma interest, and he's been a mentor. But mentor is an interesting word. It's not an advisor, and Phil's a perfect example of that. I think I ran every plan that I was considering by General Volpe along the years, and I can't think of a single time I actually followed his advice. He was giving advice to if I wanted to be a general, if I wanted to have the same path as him. But what made him great is he never once got offended by that, because he knew that he wasn't trying to make another one of him. He was just being a sounding board, a trusted agent, somebody I could bounce things off of to make sure it wasn't foolish.
Which reminds me, there are always these decisions we have to make, right? What specialty am I going to go into? And even if you go into the military, which branch, and then what path are you going to take within that branch? All that comes into play, and I think that's good advice to students to keep asking questions so that they can get the right answers and ultimately decide what they want to do, not what someone tells them to do.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I tell people, number one, it's a cliche, but don't worry about choosing your specialty. Your specialty will choose you. But a practical exercise I ask third years to do is go home, talk to your significant other, whether it's a spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, parents, neighbor, just people that are in your life, and ask them over the last year, when was I good to be around? When was I kind of being my best self? And they may be able to see things that you don't see. You might really think you want to be, insert specialty, surgeon, but you're miserable. And then you come home after OB and you could, tell them the stories. And I always tell people, find out, when were you a kindergartner? Because a kindergartner, they come home and they just can't tell you. They can't even breathe fast enough to tell you all the things they discover, and they're so excited about learning. You want to be like that when you're learning your specialty. And so I just asked them to ask their friends and neighbors to reflect, hey, when was I the best person to be around? And that's probably good guidance.
That's great advice, Kevin. And we're talking about people who are already in the field, or rather in the practice of medicine or in medical school. Lately, we've had a lot of people in this pandemic wanting to become doctors, and we've seen people applying in very large numbers, not just to medical schools, but also schools of public health. What advice do you give to the average person who is thinking about a career in medicine? Is this the right time to enter and consider that?
It's always the right time to do the right thing, and so timing I don't worry about as much, because it's not that kind of investment. It's a vocation more than a job. You're called to medicine. What I do make sure that I talk to undergraduates certainly, or people that are looking at it as a second career, is know what you're asking for. When you say I want to be a doctor, does that mean you really want to be a physician? Do you have a specialty in mind? There's a lot of other people in that building other than doctors and nurses. You have all these other professions, the OTs, PTs, speech, PAs,
True.
NPs, that are all, continuums of practice. And they are different time investments. And so it comes down to what's your family circumstance, what's your financial circumstance, what do you want to get out of it? And if it's a burning desire that I want to be a doctor, go for it. I would never discourage anybody, but I would open their eyes to, hey, just if what you're really saying is I want to take care of patients and I want to make money doing it, there might be a more efficient way to do that. So that's what I usually tell them.
I think that's good advice. Kevin, you've had an amazing career. I can't imagine, you should write a memoir one day, but moving to the future, where do you see yourself 5 to 10 years from now? You're still a relatively young guy.
Thanks for saying that, but not true. But in 5 years, of course, I'll be taking care of President Biden, who will be comfortably in his second term after capably winning his election. I'm teasing, but no, I will let that decide my fate there. But in 10, it'd be kind of cool to be a grandpa with a lake house, but I don't ever think I'll be leaving medicine. I haven't found anything else I'm that good at, and that gives me this fulfillment. And so I'll be teaching, I'll be treating patients, and put an occasional paper or two out.
Excellent. We find in medicine a lot of doctors don't give up their license even after they retire because it's part of their identity. They worked hard to get what's arguably the most important credential they'll ever get, is the legal right to practice medicine, and people don't want to give that up too quickly.
Yeah, I do commencement addresses every once in a while, and one of the things I consistently tell them is, when you walk across the stage and you take your picture and all that, when you exit, this is one of the few walks across the stage that it literally changes who you are, and that is the proper use of the term. In writing and in verbal correspondence, it changes who you are. And at our age, I don't know if you've thought about this, but I thought about it the first time I was writing a commencement address. I've been referred to as Doc for more years on this earth than I was ever referred to as Kevin.
Wow.
So it does change who you are. Now, I definitely discourage people from letting their job be their identity, but like I said, it's not a job. It's a vocation. You're never really off.
And you could argue every time you hear that term, doctor or doc, it reminds you of sort of the oath that you've taken and the, what it means, the accountability, the responsibility of what that title means, right?
Sure.
Absolutely. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you also for your service to our nation and your service to the president.
No, thank you very much, Hank. This is a great interview. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for joining both of us. Stay well and see you next time.